carry on nicely on into our last talk tonight, which is about marker posts and shelters. One of the biggest blessings of this job is that each year we lead a retreat to Holy Island for graduates and tutors and various people associated with MCYM. And we found the metaphor of marker posts and shelters really life-giving to think about the way that we should live our lives. The monastic would talk about sort of the idea of a rule and rhythm. One of the dilemmas of the word rule is, although the sort of Latin comes from a word that means measure, for a lot of us the word rule isn't great. Do we like obeying the rules? Some of us might do, but for others it's a So we found the metaphor of marker posts and shelters a much more sort of life-giving one in thinking about how we should live. I'm quoting from the message too. Sometimes Eugene Peterson just phrases things in a way that brings it home in a completely fresh way. So this is from Isaiah chapter 2. He'll show us the way he works so we can live the way we're made. John 10:10 says that Jesus came that we might have life in all of its fullness. I've been in ministry for nearly 33 years, employed in ministry. I did a gap year before that. And one of the things I really value is the capacity to have longevity in ministry, because I try as best I can to live the way that Jesus shows us, like Joe was talking. Jesus withdrew, spent time with his Father. If you look at the way that Jesus lived his life, there was a rhythm about it. I'm very challenged by the fact that in a sense he spent 30 years in preparing for his ministry. But God has a way for us to live that sustains us. And for me, it's thinking about marker posts and shelters. One of my favourite quotes from one of my favourite authors, Parker J. Palmer, is a Quaker who's written a lot about education. He says this: "Self-care is never a selfish act. It's simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer to others. If I don't look after myself, if I don't care for myself, then my capacity to care for those who God has entrusted me to care for is severely limited. And the only way that I've found to care for myself is to put sort of building blocks in my life to enable me to do that." So I'd just encourage you to think, what's one thing you've done this week to care for yourself? And if nothing's leaping to mind, I'd probably ask you to think, what one thing can I do before Sunday that would be an act of self-care? So one of the things I do is I try to go for a short walk each day. I live in Birmingham and work here, so when I get here in the morning, I will do a short walk to go and wave at the golf course and then walk back. Because my body has been stuck in a car for an hour, I arrive sort of stiff. I do a short walk. In part, that's an act of self-care. In walking, I see so many things that I can connect God with, but it also is just that transitioning time. I can think and I can reflect. So marker posts and shelters, they help me to have a clear aim, they help me with boundaries, priorities. And shelters are people, places, practices where I can rest, recharge and recreate. And we have a blog that we call Marker Posts and Shelters, and on it we talk about the way that we structure all of life. So if you want to look at it, if you just Google Marker Posts and Shelters, Paul and Sally Nash, it comes up. And we have a little grid, but in essence, for me, a lot of it is about people, places and practices that enable me to sustain a relationship with God, so that in all the different things that I do, I can feel that underpinning, that undergirding. I work full-time here. I'm also associate minister at a church in Hodge Hill in Birmingham. If I wasn't caring for myself and putting building blocks into my life, then I would really struggle to do those things which I believe that God's called me to. The other thing I want you to encourage you to think about is how can you be a marker post and shelter for other people as well. Young people particularly need safe places and safe people. A lot of who I am is because of the people that did that for me when I was a young person and a young adult. One of the things that Paul and I have done in the past is have an extended family, people living with us with, it was called adult mental health fostering at one point. And we did that because other people had opened up their home for me to live. When I joined Youth for Christ, I gave up teaching to join Youth for Christ and my salary plummeted. I couldn't afford to rent somewhere in London, so people said, "You've got a spare room, come and live with us." How can we be marker posts? How can we demonstrate how we live our lives? So I will often put on Facebook things that show how I live my life. To be that marker post, to encourage positive things. It sometimes means that someone says to me, "Oh, you're always at the seaside, aren't you, Sally?" What I'm trying to show is that I try to take a day off properly. I try to have that Sabbath, because without a Sabbath, I don't work well. So I would encourage you to think, how can you be a shelter or marker post for others? I got a text before we started tonight, and someone was saying to me, "Are you around?" And it was no. But other times it's yes, because for that person I'm a shelter. They were abused as a baby, and there are not many people that they can talk about the reality of what happened to them too. So I provide a shelter for that person at different points when she's between seeing her therapist and different sorts of things. So I'd encourage you to think, what are the marker posts and shelters you need to sustain your life and ministry? And in what ways can you be a marker and shelter post for others? Amen.